Fashion, which was once exclusively associated with the wealthy and elite, became available to even the middle-class people. And all this changed with the determination and visionary thinking of one man, Amancio Ortega Gauna, who was born in a lower middle-class family and went on to become one of the richest people on earth. This is the tale of rags to riches, a tale of how a son of a railway worker built a multi-billion-dollar fashion empire of Zara. But before all that, let's start with the early life of its founder. Childhood. In the small town of La Coruña, situated on the coast of northwest Spain, Amancio Ortega Gauna was born into a low-income family in 1936. His father, Antonio Ortega Rodriguez, worked as a railway worker, and his mother, Josefa Gauna Hernandez, was a housemaid. Growing up, his family was not so poor, but they were not affluent either, which means his father would make enough to keep the family going. And this experience of limitation made Ortega's childhood humble and full of experiences. And to some extent, he enjoyed life there despite the financial situation of the family. But as Amancio grew up, his father was transferred to the northwestern part of Spain, and his family gathered all their belongings and moved to La Coruña, a port city in northwestern Spain, where his father continued his work in the railway industry. However, with the transfer, young Ortega had hoped for an improvement in his financial situation, but unfortunately things went downhill, leading to even greater financial hardships for Ortega and his family. However, living in a modest family taught Ortega the importance of being resourceful and adaptable, so he started taking on side jobs. And despite having limited access to material possessions and opportunities, he learned to maximize what he had, coming up with creative solutions to tackle the challenges he faced. And many believe these were the days which truly paved the way for the genius businessman he was about to become. A new chapter. As a financial crisis deepened within the Gauna family, a difficult decision was made by Ortega's parents to halt his education and focus on earning a living. In 1950, when he was just 14 years of age, Ortega left school in search of work, and he found work in a local shirt maker in La Coruña which produced clothing for the rich, where he worked as a delivery boy. This not only made him independent, but also supported his family. With time, he changed jobs and worked as a draper's and tailor's assistant. Later, he even acquired the position of a manager in a clothing shop where he noticed a few wealthy residents could afford to buy the expensive clothes. This encounter gave him a chance to grasp the complexities of the fashion industry and even ignited his entrepreneurial spirit. However, by working a few more years in the clothing industry, Ortega grasped the significance of delivering products directly to customers, eliminating the need for external distributors. This strategy would later be implemented with remarkable triumph at Zara. But before Zara, a big milestone came in his life in the early 1960s when he used all his experience and started a small shop which produced his fashionable clothes. At first, he operated on a smaller scale, where he would acquire the design of fashion garments and use his skills to create replicas of garments which only the rich could afford. And the best part, he made all these at an affordable price. To achieve the low cost, he sourced cheaper fabric in Barcelona and meticulously crafted the pieces himself, utilizing cardboard patterns as guides. Ortega then sold his items to local shops, establishing local partnerships. And to his surprise, he made more profit than he expected. But he didn't stop there. He knew he could do more. So in 1963, he used all the profit to open his first big shop, Confessions Goa, at the age of 27. This shop used the same successful model of Ortega in the bathrobe business, but at a cheap price. And this turned out to be a hit. Ortega, a boy from a non-business background, was now making thousands in Spain. But still, the biggest clothing tycoon was yet to emerge. Zara. Despite being highly dedicated to his work, Ortega managed to find a loving partner in Rosalia Mera Goyenechea, a 21-year-old fine young lady from Galicia, Spain. He met her as a business partner who was initially associated with his business as a designer. Together, they used to have long meetings designing fashionable clothes and dealing with various challenges of the fashion business. However, over time, this professional relationship blossomed into a deep personal connection, and they fell in love with each other. And after a couple of years of dating, Amancio Ortega and Rosalia Mera decided to tie the knot. The couple got married in 1966, sealing their commitment to each other. Together, they had two wonderful children named Marcos and Sandra Ortega Mera. Life felt complete for Ortega. After all, he had a loving family and a business which was making millions. But though he was making millions, he was still not satisfied with the success. He wanted more. He wanted to make a brand out of his business. The thought of creating a brand took him to his previous experience as a manager. He noticed high-end, latest fashionable clothes were only bought by rich and elite people in society, and he wanted to change this. So he created Zara, a retail brand that would disrupt the fashion world. In 1975, Ortega opened his first Zara shop across the street from La Coruña's. At first, the shop was doing average business like any other fashion shop of the time. The numbers were showing a dip in profit with time, but Ortega turned to his past and applied his experience, which was seam the top, and he started it by buying the material at a cheap price. And this new approach turned out to be a big hit, as the common people of Spain started getting the best and latest fashionable clothes at the cheap price. And further, he did something which was considered a genius move by many business experts. Ortega used a speed-to-market strategy that meant providing the latest fashion to the people. It was a revolutionary concept at the time. To implement this, Ortega had to meticulously create an in-house design and production system with the Zara store. This allowed Ortega and Zara to take control of the production process. By taking control of the entire process from concept to creation, Zara sidelined reliance on external manufacturers. This not only saved them tons of money, but also allowed them to respond swiftly to changes according to fashion trends. They catered to the ever-evolving demands of their customers and delivered new designs to stores within weeks. Over the next few years, Ortega made enough profit to open a couple of other Zara stores in prominent locations in Spain, turning into another successful business venture. And Zara quickly became the brand of Spain, where it didn't even need much public promotion. Only word of mouth did the trick for it. However, the man behind all the success, Amancio Ortega, stayed away from all its glamour. But people wanted to know about his genius businessman, yet there was no way of knowing it with a reputation for secrecy. He climbed the stairs of success, he shunned all the interviews with the media, and even the company shared minimal personal details about its founder and chairman. Consequently, the press often labeled him as a publicist's nightmare. Even for many years, there was only a single photograph of Ortega circulated, which was used in magazines and papers, making him a mystery to the public. And when the Spanish Prince Felipe visited the headquarters of his company, he didn't even go to receive the royal visitor. Instead, the prince was received by one of Ortega's representatives. As low-key as he was in work he did to grow Zara, for Ortega, it was still not enough for him. He wanted to make Zara an international brand. Creation of Inditex. While he was working to make Zara an international phenomenon, his personal life was falling apart, and Ortega was struggling to give his family their due time. And after so many failed attempts to save the relationship, he and his wife Rosalia got separated in 1995. But he didn't let his personal life be an obstacle in his business. And in the same year of his separation, Ortega formed Inditex, a holding company he created in 1985 to represent his well-known Zara clothing chain, along with other smaller chains. This came in as a tsunami in the world fashion market, as they are not limited to Spain. Now they open their branches in some of the wealthiest nations like Italy, Great Britain, the United States, Latin America, Japan, and Kuwait. With this, Ortega employed more than 12,000 employees worldwide, and his efficiency relied on fast fashion mode, which quickly brings clothes from the design stage to the store. Inditex, the company, sends its spotters to fashion shows, and these spotters would find the best design the customers would like. Then their in-house designers copy the best ideas collected by the spotters. This model was 12 times faster than other companies in the market. Apart from this strategy, Zara's success also came from shattering the traditional method where Zara's stores didn't follow the usual fashion seasons like fall, winter, spring, and summer. Instead, they constantly received new clothes every week, regardless of the time of year. If certain styles didn't sell well, they were promptly taken out of the stores. However, Zara going to the international market brought new challenges. Now Ortega couldn't buy cheap products from the local market as he did in the past, so he had to find a way to cut down the cost, and he did something which changed the perception of business in Europe. Ortega's new genius model again went against the trend of using cheap labor in developing countries. Instead, he kept jobs in his home country, Spain. While Ortega spent more on labor costs in Spain compared to his competitors who were using workers from third world countries. This raised the cost of production, but on the contrary, he reduced the price of the product by reducing advertisement, minimizing shipping costs, and producing clothes close to where they would be sold. These dramatic steps of Ortega turned out so successful that it was taught in many business schools. The present. As of now, Inditex has 8 brands under its name, and Amancio Ortega Gaona doesn't control it anymore. However, he is still the owner of the majority of shares of Inditex, which is 60%. And Zara, which started with a small fashion store in the street of La Coruñas in 1975, now has more than 2,000 stores across the world with 75,000 employees, whose brand value is estimated to be more than $13 billion. And the center of all this is Ortega, who came from a humble background and now comes 13 on the list of billionaires in the world. And according to Business Insider, the net worth of this business tycoon is more than $68.5 billion. This success of Ortega and his company Zara proves smart working and absolute devotion toward the work is a sure ticket to success. Thanks for watching the video. Comment down below your favorite part, and also press the subscribe button and bell icon for regular updates.